Hey, everybody, and welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're going to be looking at Deuteronomy chapter 14,
Oh, yeah.
and we'll be talking about some really interesting ideas about holiness,
Yeah.
what it means to be a holy people, and what that looks like in practice.
It's a fascinating section. Almost like a guidebook for the Israelites.
Yeah.
Really gets into the nitty-gritty of daily life.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I find so interesting about this chapter is how it connects, like, everyday things,
Right.
like what you eat,
Absolutely.
to these bigger ideas like identity and purpose.
Yes, food is so central to culture and who we are,
Right.
and this chapter really digs into that.
Yeah, so let's jump into some of those specifics.
Hmm.
The text lays out all these rules about like what you can and cannot eat.
Oh, yeah, it gets pretty specific.
Right, like ox and sheep, those are okay,
Mm-hmm.
but camels and pigs are off the table.
Yeah, absolutely. Forbidden.
Even fish have to pass a test.
Right. Gotta have those fins and scales.
Exactly.
It's kind of funny when you think about it.
Yeah, it's easy to just dismiss these as just like random ancient rules.
But I think there's more to it than that.
I think so too.
It's worth asking, like, what's the deeper meaning here? What does it say about how the Israelites saw themselves, how they were different from other groups?
It definitely sets them apart.
Yeah, it's like a badge of honor almost.
Right, and it's not just about being different for the sake of being different.
Exactly. It's about holiness.
Right.
This idea of being set apart for a purpose.
Yeah.
And food, well, it's such a basic part of life.
Right.
It becomes this powerful symbol of that distinction.
Absolutely. And it's not even just symbolism, right? Some of these dietary laws might have actually had like practical roots too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Take the rule about not boiling a kid in its mother's milk.
right. That's a great example.
Like, what's that about?
At first glance, it seems so bizarre.
Yeah.
But, scholars think it might be about sustainability,
Okay.
animal husbandry, making sure the herds stay healthy. So you have this fascinating mix of symbolic meaning and practical considerations.
Yeah, it's amazing.
All rolled into one.
Yeah, I love how these ancient texts, they can be so multi-layered.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're always uncovering something new. But Deuteronomy doesn't stop at food.
Oh, no, not at all.
It also gets into this idea of tithing, giving a tenth of your produce, livestock, even your income.
And this is where it gets really real.
Yeah.
Putting your money where your mouth is, right? It's one thing to talk about being holy,
Yeah.
but how do you actually live that out? Tithing is a big part of the answer.
Yeah, it's like putting your money where your mouth is, literally.
Exactly.
But it's not just about like blindly giving away your hard-earned stuff.
No, it's not just throwing money into the void. Remember we talked about
Yeah.
the Levites,
Right.
that priestly tribe? They were responsible for the religious life of the community.
Right.
So part of the tithe went to supporting them, maintaining the religious centers.
Okay, so it's about supporting the religious institution.
Yeah, that's part of it.
But there's more to it than that.
Oh, absolutely. This is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The text specifically mentions that the tithe should also be used to care for those in need.
Okay.
The strangers, the orphans, and the widows.
That's fascinating. So it's not just like religious duty.
Right.
It's about social responsibility
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Almost like a built-in safety net
Exactly.
for the most vulnerable people in society.
You got it.
Yeah.
It's a concept that you see throughout history, right? I mean, you see echoes of it in different cultures and even in like modern systems of social welfare.
Yeah.
I mean, think about ideas like universal basic income or progressive taxation.
Oh, interesting.
They all share that same underlying principle of collective responsibility.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It really makes you think about those connections between these ancient ideas
Right.
and what we're dealing with today.
Absolutely.
But Deuteronomy doesn't stop at just like the practical side of supporting the vulnerable.
Right.
It also talks about celebrating with the tithe.
That's right. And this is where you see that beautiful blend of the practical and the spiritual.
Yeah.
The Israelites were told to use a portion of their tithe to have a feast before God,
Okay.
to rejoice and celebrate with their families and their community.
So it's not just about like giving begrudgingly
Oh,
or out of obligation.
not at all.
It's about recognizing what you've been given.
Yeah, recognizing the abundance
Yeah.
and sharing that joy with others.
Exactly. And imagine those gatherings.
Yeah.
Like it's not just about fulfilling a religious duty.
Right.
It's about strengthening those social bonds.
Right.
Fostering a sense of gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Celebrating this shared identity as a people.
Absolutely. It brings everyone together.
I love that idea. It really takes the act of giving and elevates it to something way more meaningful.
Yeah, it transforms it.
Yeah, and transformative. It makes you wonder How can we apply this to our own lives today?
Right. That's the big question, isn't it? And it's not necessarily about like a literal interpretation of tithing,
Yeah.
10%.
Right. But it's about understanding the principles.
Right. The deeper meaning.
What does it mean for us to be a holy people in the modern world? How can we express our gratitude and our responsibility to others in ways that are authentic to our own lives?
It's interesting because I've always kind of struggled with the idea of tithing
Okay.
in a traditional religious sense.
Yeah.
It always felt very prescriptive to me,
Hmm.
like a rule that I just had to follow.
I can see that.
But when you frame it like as expressing gratitude
Yeah.
and contributing to the well-being of the community,
Right.
it suddenly takes on a whole new meaning.
And that's the beauty of engaging with these ancient texts, isn't it?
Yeah.
They challenge us to think critically about our own beliefs and actions, to find that timeless wisdom within them
Yeah.
and apply it in ways that are meaningful to us today.
So maybe instead of focusing on that specific percentage or like what exactly we're giving,
Right.
it's more about the intention,
Exactly.
the spirit behind it. Absolutely. Think about the ways that you already contribute to your community or support causes you care about.
Yeah.
Do you volunteer your time?
Right.
Donate to charities?
Support local businesses.
All of these actions can be expressions of that same spirit of generosity and shared responsibility.
It's like choosing to live a life that reflects those values
Yeah.
of compassion and care,
Right.
recognizing that we're all connected and we all have a role to play.
Absolutely. Just as the Israelites found joy in celebrating together,
Yeah.
we too can find that deep sense of purpose and fulfillment.
By contributing to something larger than ourselves.
Exactly.
This whole idea of like finding joy in giving, it's really resonating with me. It makes me think about a time when it's funny thinking about this whole giving thing. Makes me think about that time I helped organize a fundraiser for our local library.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't, a ton of money or anything, but just seeing everyone come together to support this thing they cared about.
Right.
It's really inspiring.
Yeah.
And honestly,
Mm-hmm.
it felt really good to be a part of it.
I love that example. It really shows how even small acts of giving can make a difference,
Yeah.
It creates that ripple effect,
Yeah.
that sense of connection and shared purpose.
Right. And who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe that fundraiser sparked a love of reading in some kid or
Right. Exactly.
gave someone a place where they felt welcome.
Absolutely. We don't always see the full impact,
Yeah,
but that doesn't make those actions any less meaningful.
that's so true. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Deuteronomy 14, what's one thing you hope our listeners take away from this conversation?
Well, if I had to pick just one, it's that generosity is about so much more than just giving money or things.
Okay.
It's about a mindset,
Right.
It's about cultivating a sense of abundance,
Yeah.
recognizing that we're all connected and finding joy in contributing to the well-being of others.
Yeah.
It's about asking ourselves, what gifts do I have to share?
Right.
How can I use those to make the world a better place?
That's such a great point. It's a good reminder that we all have something unique to offer.
Right. We all have something to give.
Yeah, and even small acts of generosity and kindness,
Mm-hmm.
they can make a real difference.
Yeah.
And it's about embracing that idea of being holy people,
Right.
not necessarily in a religious sense,
Yeah. Not in a dogmatic way.
but in the sense of recognizing our shared humanity
Yeah.
and our responsibility to each other.
Beautifully said. And just as the Israelites celebrated their tithe with feasts and rejoicing,
Right.
I hope our listeners will find ways to celebrate their own acts of generosity,
Yeah.
whether it's sharing a meal with loved ones or reflecting on the good they've put out into the world,
Right.
or just, feeling that warm glow of knowing you've made a positive difference.
That's a wonderful thought to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Deuteronomy.
My pleasure.
We hope you found it insightful and thought-provoking.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep giving.
Take care, everyone.